Hey, welcome back into the metaverse. Today we're going to dive into Gala Games and Galaverse, what that means, what the token is doing, and also take a look at kind of the updates they've dropped here on Galaverse. It's going to be quite a show today. You guys are going to love this one. My name is Paul Barron. Yeah, you know me. Welcome back to Metaverse Insider. All right, so we've been doing a lot of videos today, so give me a break. Let's get into it today, and of course that is really what is happening in Malta. Malta is the place where Galaverse is happening. I was looking at their Twitter feed today. More drops, more leaks, a lot happening over there. Some really cool stuff. I was invited to this. I just did not have a chance to get there with so many things happening. But the cool thing is that what Galaverse is overall, I think, it's now a twice a year event. It has a lot of very interesting aspects, much like what you see with, interesting that it was on the same day as Apple's developer conference, so kind of cool. But I think it has a lot of that Apple panache, meaning that we're expecting a lot of development, we're expecting new partnerships, and we're expecting some things that are yet to be determined and what those might be. So we'll break down a few of those today, take a look at some of the things they've done, and if you guys want to see the sentiment on Gala at the end of the video, make sure and hit the like button. We'll give you guys the current sentiment of what's happening on the CPI because Gala is one of the metaverse tokens that we do track on an ongoing basis. Additionally, I think when you look at Gala and just the overall of what they're trying to do, one of the things that's always interesting to me is trading volume. Trading volume usually gives you some indicator of where a project is going. Sometimes it's very short term, so you have to be aware that when you are tracking things like that you should be tracking and utilizing a multitude of tools, just like we do. We use everything from sentiment, trading analysis for money volume, and then we look at on-chain data as well to try to kind of understand whether or not the timing for projects are perfect, or if we should wait before we jump into something. But here's a tweet here by Whale Stats, just in Gala and Gala Games, now on top 10 by trading volume among 100 biggest ETH whales in the last 24 hours. Check the top 100 whales here. You can go to Whale Stats. This is a good website too. I've used Whale Stats many times here on the show, but if you guys have not used it, check it out. It's a good place to really take a look at where wallet transactions are flowing, what kind of projects are being invested to, put some of the biggest money out there in the space. So cool stuff. Let's get into some other things that they were dropping here. Of course, one of the big things that I think is one that people need to pay attention to, and this to me is kind of a hidden gem within of their overall, because they're like a lot of really great producers of shows and events, and they just jam so much together. But this piece here, of course, breaking on the gaming platform is the partnership with Epic Games. This is going to launch Battle Royale game Grit, which we've talked about before, on the Epic Games store. Now, this is, to me, is very big news because it creates a little bit of a conundrum within the gaming industry. And Epic has been one of those projects that, from the very beginning, has kind of had an open mind to where NFTs and Web3 was going to be going, especially around blockchain gaming. Here's the story right here from Decrypt. Epic Games Store first NFT game is Gala's Wild West Shooter Grit. And here's a breakdown of it, because there's some interesting things here that I think you should be aware of. Grit will feature the user-owned NFT items. Rival marketplace Steam has banned NFT games. So to me, and looking at what's happening with Epic, could this be the gauntlet thrown down and drawing potentially Steam out of the corner and saying, maybe we need to get in the fight here and start looking at, or at least reassessing how NFT games will be rolled out on Steam. But pretty cool stuff, because right here it was when leading PC game marketplace Steam decided to ban Web3 games with NFT or crypto hooks last October. Rising rival Epic Games Store claimed it would remain open to such games, and I think that is the difference for what you see now with Gala and Epic partnering up on Grit to be one of the first. So cool stuff. I think this also starts to showcase kind of the future of gaming in general. And when you think about the kind of quality of games that are being looked at for these kind of partnerships, here's just a quick trailer on Grit, just to give you kind of some idea. To me, this is still one of the best looking projects out there in Web3 gaming overall. Great graphics, and overall, if you see some of the gameplay, and I want to show you some of it. Let me kind of jump off of the video here and jump over here. You can kind of see, here we go. Here's some of the gameplay at the event. Collabing with Epic, future is now, gaming and ownership, about time. You can kind of see players just jumping into it. I think this is one of those games that is going to be unbelievably successful. Epic is probably going to be very happy with the results on how this one rolls out for sure. There's another close-up on the Grit test play. So again, great NFT usage, lots of opportunity, I think, here for players. And I think Gala's just done a really good job on it. And this is one that we've talked about on the show multiple times. In fact, Jason Bitbender brought Grit up in one of our videos that we did last fall with Gala, before, I think, the Galaverse in Las Vegas. And he even kind of indicated this is one of the games that we think is going to do really well. In fact, it looks as though it has. The other big news out of here was a project called Saturn that they were going to be dropping. And of course, that project was also known as Battlestar Galactica. This, of course, is now a blockchain-themed game. Lots happening here. If you guys are big Battlestar Galactica fans, hit the like button. That'll tell me if you guys really like this game, or at least the future of it, because I see more and more partnerships coming in the way of Gala. I think they are right now the blockchain gaming company to watch for many reasons. There's obvious reasons in terms of the style of play, their overall strategy to the entertainment market, which I also think is a big deal, and their partnerships with which they've been able to do. So the fact that they've been able to put this together, I think, is pretty amazing. You know, because I think there's a lot of opportunity here for sure. So with that being the case, I want to see what else they had on this, because this is a little bit on the piece. This was by channel On-Chain Gaming. If you guys have not checked On-Chain Gaming out, check him out, because he does a really good job on breaking down a lot of the blockchain gaming stuff, similar to we do. And we always love to kind of share the love with other channels. But he did a little bit of a review here of some of the footage, and you can kind of see this is pretty amazing stuff. Great graphics, and I think this is, again, going to be one of those, could it be a Grit level? I don't know yet. But great graphics, obviously in partnership with a lot of industry leaders out there, with Universal and tons of stuff. This is the thing that is going to be interesting, because there's a couple of things that plays into this, and that is both the NFT usage. Let me see if I can scrub through this, because there's probably going to be a little bit more in here on this element. And you can kind of see right here. Let me show you this right here. They're kind of playing into it. They're talking a little bit about the program.
Energy levels are rising.
Gotcha. So anyway, we're getting, okay, so sorry guys, I'm getting some feedback here on this. But anyway, what I'm showing you right here, let me kind of showcase this piece right here, because this is where it breaks down some of the elements with the planets, which I think are eventually going to flow into the guilds. Additionally, with that, there is the NFTs. And this is, let me scrub this a little bit further. You can kind of see the NFTs starting to flow in here, and more right there being use case. So again, this one I think will blow up in terms of popularity. It's the opportunity I think is going to be really big for where Battlestar Galactica is going to go, which I think is kind of a known element in the sense of more and more of these big IP components playing into Gala. I mean, they've already partnership with other projects. Obviously, you guys know about Walking Dead. And I think this is going to be just one case that is going to start drawing in a lot of other IP, because people are going to be, with other IP control, are going to be looking at Gala and going, this is the partner we should be going with. Look at all these deals that are doing. This makes perfect sense. Here's another piece that was breaking out of there. The Walking Dead is coming to blockchain with Gala Games, launching the Walking Dead Empires. Some of the exclusive footage. Let me kind of just show you a little bit about this, zoom in a little bit on it. And he gets into a little bit more of the footage right here. And again, just the way that they go about this, a great entertainment company. They do a great job at doing overall presentation of new game footage, new game play, and then also immersing the audience in the overall approach toward bringing some of this stuff to market. So I think, again, Galaverse is just a class event, and it is one that I think is probably setting the tone for the industry, because a lot of people will look at this and, because there's many other game companies out there that are trying to do events and plan this out. I think Gala is kind of one of the companies that have been able to really kind of fly on it. Look at the players right here. Just kind of zoom. If you can kind of see in the background right there, just tons of people really there diving into what's happening with these games. So again, really well done. Looks to be very far along in terms of development. So I'm kind of curious as to when this might actually go live. Eternal Paradox, also another one that is jumping in. This is a mobile game. So more news on the fact that mobile first is going to be a big factor in the growth of Gala, because I think a lot of people have looked at many of the potentials, especially when you look into emerging markets. The likelihood is emerging markets don't have access to mainstream PCs, and in some cases, even high bandwidth. So mobile is going to be a key factor here. I'm kind of curious as to whether or not Gala is going to really ramp up mobile as a first, aspect, especially around gaming, because I see more and more game companies. We talk to a ton of game developers here all the time, and they seem to kind of be pushing toward that as the theme, at least for the future, because they see a lot of growth in the potential of where that goes. Here's a better shot of the mobile, aspect of how this looks with Eternal Paradox. Not bad. Again, more great graphics. Gala is no slouch here in terms of their overall team and their ability to really create, I think, great play, which really, again, sets them apart from most every other game project out there, especially at the scale in which they are doing it. And we haven't talked about music or, continued into entertainment yet. There's just so much happening within this. Now, don't forget, guys, at the end of the video, we're going to give you guys a sentiment breakdown, which there's some interesting news on that. And a breakdown of where we see maybe the price prediction going on Gala. Make sure and hit the like on the video. That always helps us out. And also kind of lets me know if sentiment is really something you guys are tracking as much as we are. Here's some of the screenshots from our live playable build at Galaverse. We're so happy to meet everyone. Echoes of Empire. Again, good stuff here. I think overall, good looking graphics. Love the art. And I think this just showcases, again, the kind of talent. Now, the only thing that I would watch out for with Gala is the fact in which their iteration and their development speed is so dynamic. So it really depends. I mean, if you've got a team that's capable of going at this speed on this many projects, then it's not a big deal. But being able to do that in the stage in which we're in, which is where you need a lot of blockchain development, engineers, and you need the ability to really kind of ramp up. I don't necessarily think their marketing side is going to be not capable of, because I think they do a great job. Obviously, you can kind of see that with Galaverse and many of their efforts out there. But I think the development side is going to be the one that we've got to really pay attention to, because this is going to be whether we see games stretch out or do we see them continue to drop a lot. Because still a lot has happened in really 6 months, 7 months since the last Galaverse. So I think that in essence kind of, gives us a little bit of an indicator that says maybe they are capable of it. So cool stuff. Here's some additional footage here. This is the official trailer from them on the Fortitude trailer. Also, again, more great footage, a lot happening. Fortitude, I think, is going to be will be one of their best games, just because of, at least for me, this is kind of these fantasy player games. I really like these approaches, and not bad. I mean, they're really coming across here. I would want to see more, obviously, more stuff here than what we're seeing. Let me scrub this a little further if they can get into a battle. There we go. So still fun games. They're doing a great job, I think, overall. And the other thing is I think Gala understands one thing, and that is their player community. And anytime you understand your player community and can really kind of match up what's happening, at least on the game development front, always plays out, especially in social. And eventually it starts to play out in adoption, which is going to be the other factor I think that plays into this, because adoption is going to be key. If you get into adoption and the ability to kind of scale up. There's two things you can do. You can either stay on track with either a zone in which you're in, or you can say, okay, listen, we have let's just say 10 million players, and all these 10 million players do a lot of different things. So not only do they gameplay, maybe they want music or they're into film, then how do they feed that community to help start creating, ability to really kind of leverage the overall scale of the audience and the player community as a whole? Here's an update from them, big updates. This was Mount Westmore and Crazy Boom. Here's the video, just to give you an idea of what they were doing. And again, this gets back into Snoop, and I think overall with how they're approaching music. Music is going to be a big factor here for the future of Gala. And I think this is only going to get better because they are doing something in music that not many projects are capable of doing, and that is being able to leverage it up to the independent artist and really scale. Once you show that independent artists can scale up in something like this, especially with Web3 and distribution as the key component here, then you're going to start to draw in some of the mainstream artists. And the minute that a mainstream artist, especially big time, someone, think about Snoop Dogg, but think about all the others that would qualify at the same level of Snoop Dogg that would be coming into a platform like that. The key here is going to be scalability and the ability to kind of get that discovery in play for new artists. So, and I think Gala's got a good chance of being able to really do it. Here's the other thing that they dropped, which was film, Gala Film. Now, you've seen how music has been integrated into gameplay. You've seen kind of the partnership deals and levels of integration that have kind of played into all of this. Here would be my question. If they are capable of starting to integrate film into gameplay, then I think we have something very, very special. Here's some of the things they break down in their blog posts. Easier to get discovered. So this is going to be emerging filmmakers. They'll have new opportunities to monetize. Same handbook that is playing out in the entertainment side for music. More rewards. So this is going to be making it possible for fans and collectors to get rewards in content streams rather than paying. Artists can be rewarded. Also, collectors can get rewarded for collecting. So I think they're creating an ecosystem there that starts to feed off each other, which is a really smart structure and a smart move. Intellectual property, I think IP is going to be a big factor here because, as you guys know, many of the creators, whether you're in music or even to a certain extent a rising star as an actress or an actor, in many cases, they don't get that great a deal because they have to go through so many different agents and brokering deals and attorneys and all that. By the time it gets down to them, the percentage in which they get out of a deal is much, much less. So I think IP is going to be a really interesting play on this. And as decentralized film ecosystem designed to uplift and encourage filmmakers, Gala will always treat the artist property with utmost integrity, creating worlds of interoperability. This is something that I still think is a little bit, out there in vapor land right now. I don't necessarily see this completely integrated and completely vetted, but the fact that they have it in their roadmap and are pushing toward this is good. Later this week, also, they look for the inaugural Gala Film sale of a digital item called the Film Pass. So this is going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Film Pass will only be available in extremely limited quantities. The first 500 are reserved exclusively for the Galaverse guests. So cool stuff. So if you made it to Malta, you're in luck. You're going to get one of these Film Passes. Here's the thing that I think you got to watch out for, and that is what's going to cause the token to move. Is there something that Gala is holding back for day 3? Because Galaverse day 3 live stream is going to be coming up, and I think they've got something, and they kind of mentioned this in their overall agenda, is there's a special announcement. So it's either a partnership, something big, maybe in the way of film that could really lean in, or they've got something that is brewing in the essence of some sort of deal with a big artist. And I just don't know what it might be. The key here, again, either way, whether it's on the music side, maybe they've got something, even another bag, but I think they're playing their game bag up front. And maybe it's the music and the film side of things that could get released as a big announcement. And with that, as I said earlier, is this potentially starts to track in to drawing in some of the big names in the business. Entertainment is still one of the largest industries out there, whether you think about gaming, music, and independent artists, or you get into film and what that might look like, because the opportunity here, I think, for not only streaming, but also consumption, content consumption in general, is going to be massive in the next decade. And I think Gala could be right there in the front. We're going to make sure and put your questions in. I'm going to get to some of those. I'm going to also drop into the sentiment analysis for you guys today. But let's also take a look at the poll and see what you guys think about this. Let's take a quick look. All right, so most exciting day one announcement, Battlestar, Epic, music, and other. I think the Epic, I would agree with you guys. I think Epic is the one, mainly because it sets the tone for the rest of the industry. Now, I want to think about this as well. There's going to be a handful of game companies that have figured out from the blockchain side of things, and I don't necessarily put Gala in just blockchain gaming. They're going to live in the blockchain gaming world, but because of how they've done things in terms of strategy, gameplay development, overall marketing, structural engineering, just the structure in which they've built, they act like a huge AAA studio. And I don't think they're there yet. So this tells me they got a lot of runway left, and the likelihood of other games, and we've talked to a few big AAA guys in the past few weeks that are talking about that the major industries, AAA industries, traditional game studios, could be waiting in the wings for a timing position to jump into this. If that is the case, we could see a lot of different game projects get demolished, and there's only going to be a handful that I think win out in Web3, because the traditional guys are, one, they have the audience, they have the player communities, and they have the designers and creators. What they would need to do is plug in the tech, that being blockchain, and be able to make that leap, much like what Epic is doing right now with this first little foray with Grit. All of that tells me there could be some players. Who would be the winner out of that? If you're starting to kind of skate to where the puck is, on a Wayne Gretzky metaphor, is Gala one of those companies, one of those projects that will be one of the major players in this space in the next 2 to 3 years? Because I think that's when all of this is really going to break out. I think they are. And when you look at just a little bit about where Gala is going, let's just take a look at their all-time. Actually, let's take a look at the year. So you can kind of see them coming off the floor last August, right there at 2 cents. And then you can kind of see Gala, of course, popping up again in Metaverse October and November last fall, going to 70 cents. A little bit of fall, and then resurrected a little bit here at 35, and really has been, I think, a really good position for, if you are a Gala lover, buying in somewhere between that 7 and 8 cent range has been a really good spot, unless you were able to jump in at the 0.685 right there back in middle of May. But what does this do in the short term is going to be the question. This is, of course, has been Gala coming out toward Galaverse. We've got a little bit of a fall off right here within the last day. You can kind of see it moving right here. But at the same time, they have yet to really drop the rest of the news, which I think is going to be the key here. Now, will this drive the token out a little bit better? It depends on if this is a long-term partnership and if it starts to play in on a much grander scale. If it is, and it is a grander scale announcement, could be some big opportunities here. Just to give you an example of our CPI data on this is rare that we see this, especially right now in these markets, where we start to see amplification over-indexing on sentiment, which it is. So you've got AMP right there holding it at 70.27, and then sentiment right at 69.92. Anytime we see amplification start to over-index, it usually means a little bit of a move. This one is very tight, so it could be either way. So I'm watching it very closely, and if I look at the chart, just to give you guys a little bit of a look, this was the last time we pulled that data, just to give you an example of what kind of move that one did. From there to right there, almost a 53% move. This was back here in mid-May, so a nice little bump there. And we're on a green candle right now with a lot of upside leaning to the right here on a 69.92 and a 70.27 on the AMP, as I showed you just a minute ago. So what does this mean? Could this be a spot? I mean, I know the bottom was right here around 7 cents. Could this be the spot right here to be entering into a short-term trade with Gala? This is something I'm doing. And full disclosure is that I think that this has got a chance to move, and I'm going to be watching this one very closely. And it is also one of those projects that is a long-term hold for me. So for me, it's kind of a double opportunity here. If I want to play this and it doesn't make the move, then I've still dollar cost averaged on Gala overall. So I'm looking long-term because I do think they're going to be there for the long term. And if it does take a short pop and I do want to take and execute on the trade for a little bit of a swing trade, I win both ways. So I like it. Let's jump over to the questions now, try to answer a few of those for you guys. Get into all that good stuff and see where things are going. Doug, Gala and Disney soon through Snoop. That would be interesting. If Gala pulls a Disney partnership, all bets are off, because at that point, they have shown something that no other game company has ever or has done to date. That would be the killer. Oh my gosh, Mirage. If it's a Fortnite partnership, oh my God, that would be huge. Oof. That would be so big. I don't know. Maybe start seeing acquisitions. Could be the case. I'm still curious as to where they're getting the money from. I know there's a lot from the way of the nodes. It's a big generator for them, but they don't really have a ton of investors. So I'm just curious. I mean, you've got to be able to scale. Maybe that's the other thing here, is they're getting into the zone. Remember, getting to minimum viable product is the first thing that startups try to do. Gala is way past that. So their opportunity of value proposition, even though at the same time from a VC side of things, valuations are down. I don't know if it would be a good time for that, but it'd be interesting to see if they were to pull that off. Dashiel, no worries here. Gala has always been proactive, showing already very developed products, attacks several angles, Web3 and beyond. Totally agree, man. Charlie, Ethereum is killing me with these fees to transfer my Gala. Wouldn't that be something? The Gala chain, that would be another one that would be a killer app. I honestly don't care about any of the games until they're mobile. I'm in agreement with you, Mechas, because this, I think, is something that a lot of people don't really take heart to. We here in the United States and a lot of the Western developed countries, we kind of take gaming for granted because, we have high-powered PCs and Macs and all these things, and we have great internet. But you get into these emerging industries or emerging countries, all of that's not there. Mobile is usually the thriving device that pretty much runs their access to internet. So I think mobile is going to be a key thing. True 49er, Paul, DCA thoughts on another bag of Gala or Sandbox? Right now, I'm going in on Gala more so than Sand, even though I do still have a very large position with Sandbox, so I'm not selling that. So I still think Sandbox is one of those big winners. Gala, Illuvium, Axie, those four are really kind of the big quad that I'm watching very closely. And I try to even shrink down on those because I'm a little bit over leveraged on Axie, which I'm trying to back off some. If Axie makes a big enough move, I would probably jettison some of that bag. Illuvium is just taking a long time to develop, but they're a little slower. But I think they have a lot of upside, so lots happening there. Again, just remember, these are market movers. When we drop in data like this and all this kind of stuff, it's not financial advice. The idea is to give you our own insights, our own strategies, and we do it for free. We do it to help you guys out. Hopefully it's something that is a direction that helps you make a decision on whether you even want to get into blockchain gaming. It's very, very risky right now. This side of the market, even though it's highly deflated, it could go further. And we don't know that yet. There's a lot of factors. Make sure to watch our other show, TechPath Crypto, because we really break down a lot of the macroeconomics. We get some of the big interviews that really take a look from an economic standpoint and how it could play into this. Because I think the gaming industry, unfortunately, still tags along to the Bitcoin price, at least for now. But in the future, I don't think that's going to be the case. Hilldog, thoughts on Superfarm at this point? Kind of fallen off the map for me. Superfarm was in one of my high-risk bags that I've since sold. But could it come back and could it stay around? Sure. I mean, it's got Elio and the team over there. They still, I know they're putting their heads down, and a lot of times that's the thing that happens in these bear markets is heads down. You don't hear from people and you don't hear from projects until boom, they've done something huge, and then that's when you see these upsides. So if you like that one, you should really stay on it. I think Eternal Paradox will be playable tomorrow on mobile. That would be cool if that's the case. Obvious Evil. Kazai, let's see here. No movement on coin. Looks like the announcement were priced in. Maybe, maybe not. They still have another day or two, so we could still see some more movement. But it did take a little bit of a move overall, so it is still showing some positive moves since late last week, which is when you kind of compare. Christian, are you planning to make a presentation about Tron? We are giving that consideration right now. It's been asked for by many people. We are interested in it, but we're just not so sure that we're going to do it yet. But if we do, you guys will be the first to know. Big fan of the show. Rarely get to catch you live. Off topic, would love to hear your thoughts on UFO. You know, we've had UFO on our top gaming tokens videos many times. I would not necessarily say UFO would be one of my bets in this period just because of the volatility of the market right now. I'd stay with the top tier and stay with the blue chips when you're thinking altcoins and or traditionals, obviously Bitcoin and Ether. Gala will reach Axie number. It's possible. I mean, Gala's got the breadth of the market. Their player community is only compounding, so the potential is there. But man, Axie they just have that. They have that Pacific Rim. That's really what it boils down to. And when you have Asia, and you're in the gaming sector, and you have something that is really started to leverage in, and you kind of have a love-hate going on with Axie, they're going to be a hard one to dethrone. Juicy. I personally love Gala team focus, driven towards fun, developing ecosystems. Price action will come. Kind of in agreement with you. Freddie T. Gala can easily reach its all-time high. Oh, for sure. Next bull market, no doubt. Gala's going to blow. At least I think it's going to blow. Tony Perez, where do you see Gala in a year? That would be a good one, Tony. We could see it somewhere maybe in the $5 to $10 range, pending on, and that's the early stage, depending on how fast we get out of the recession. If we start to see the bottom in, and it's guaranteed that we are in the bottom, we start to print a couple of upsides on CPI, I mean, not our CPI, but the Consumer Power Index, price index, then and inflation in general, then I think there's a potential opportunity to where we might see some action. I still am leaning toward mid to late next year, though some people are talking about that maybe happening a little bit earlier. We'll see, because I think the Fed has a lot of play into this. Dino, do you think advertising at Gala is a bit weak? I would say their marketing so far has been pretty on point compared to other blockchain companies. They do a fairly good job with overall full disclosure. I mean, we're in talks with Gala to become a partner on the channel. And I think overall they do a decent job with marketing. But to your point, maybe what you're thinking about is to be able to hit mainstream. To be able to get mainstream, yes, the marketing aspect of any kind of blockchain company or blockchain game project is going to have to 10x, if not 100x, to be able to reach the masses. So there is a lot yet to do on, and a lot of work, I think, right now. This is the time in which a lot of these companies are putting their head down, doing a lot of work, rolling out as much as they can, and then getting things moving, because I think we will start to see some correction as the market starts to give us a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. And I still believe in crypto wholeheartedly, so it's definitely going to be one of the majors for me. All right, make sure and subscribe to our channel. This is the #1 way that you can get updates, live streams, all this kind of stuff. And also, if you've not joined our Diamond Circle, you've got to jump in. It's free, and it's one of those things that we do a couple of emails a week. We give you guys some additional data. One thing we did add to the Diamond Circle that's new is a thing called the Cardano tracker. And this right here, if you're on our Diamond Circle, so let's go to your My Library, and you're logged in. You've got a couple of things. If you're not a Power Index user, no big deal. You can still view content, and it's going to get you into a lot of new things. You're going to notice some things right here, the Power Index trackers. We just added Cardano just today. So now you've got sentiment. The difference here is big because it's daily. It's no longer 3 times a week when we do a tracker. It breaks down daily. It gives you the current recent token prices, the volume, the market cap, max supply, circulating supply. Also drops in a lot about the project and even recent news based on popularity of the links. So it has a lot of new cool stuff built into it. Eventually, if you're following our CPI, the plan for us is to do this with all of our tokens. Hopefully by year end, we're going to be at 50 tokens that we track just like this on a daily basis. That's what our goal is. But right now, these trackers, you guys get a chance to get a little bit of a taste of how it works and keep an eye on it. But just to take a look at Cardano before we jump out of here, Cardano is sliding a little bit on amplification. Market is down slightly, but the sentiment overall has been kind of flat. Again, I think this is, whether you call it Cardano bots or just the Cardano community, their sentiment doesn't deviate too much. You can kind of see it coming across here. Doesn't deviate too much. It's the wild ride on AMP that I'm always curious about when it comes to Cardano. All right, you guys stay tuned in here. If you want to reach me out on Twitter, it's @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on Metaverse Insider.